Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you all for being here. There's a lot of cameras there. I appreciate all the, I'm going to just take this down for a minute. I appreciate the interest and the support in keeping our community safe, our businesses safe, and for, again, coming together. Thank you, CVS, for hosting us. Thank you, CVS, for vaccinating. For boosting and for testing. This has been a really, really important function, and we're really appreciative of your work. I want to recognize the delegation from this area that are here, Kate Farrar, State Rep, yes, Kate Farrar, and our State Senator, Derek Slapp. And I want to thank our police chief from West Hereford, Chief Vernon Riddick, for his work and all he has done to work with businesses, again, to keep them safe and profitable. We have all been through so much during the pandemic, and it is truly a shame that there are people out there that want to hurt businesses further and take advantage of consumers. So with that, I am going to introduce our wonderful Attorney General, William Tong, who brought us all here together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. It's good to be home in West Hartford. And thank you, CVS, for vaccinating me and my family. Tom Moriarty, the General Counsel of CVS, is here today. He's been a strong partner on all of these issues, and it's great to be with all of you. Happy holidays. I hope that all of you and your families are safe and healthy. We're here today to announce a task force on organized retail crime consisting of the Office of the Attorney General, the Governor. It will be led by Commissioner Ravella and the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection. It will be including and consisting of state and local law enforcement, and will work closely with our retail partners who you'll hear from today, and also our sister states and my fellow attorneys general across the country, all of whom are focused on stopping organized retail crime, which is spreading across the country. So we're not talking about everyday shoplifting or petty theft. We're talking about organized crime rings that account for almost $70 billion in retail losses across the country. In Connecticut, that costs us an estimated more than 8,000 jobs, $169 million in lost revenue. And what's happening is that, as we saw in Oxford, Connecticut, you have crime rings of low-level people who are being organized by middle-level criminals, and then above them, bigger bosses who are putting people out on the street in these smash-and-grab operations in stores across our country and here in Connecticut. They're stealing large volumes of everyday goods, and then they're selling them mostly online. And so what we're seeing is that it's possible for an organized crime ring, often across state lines, to steal large quantities of these everyday products and then not just take them to a pawn shop or to sell them off the back of a truck, but now they go online to the major online platforms and they fence these products online. And so what we need to do is cut off the demand and to stop the flow of these goods through the major online and social media platforms. And that's one of the most important things we're calling on the major online platforms to do today, to work with us, to work with state and local law enforcement to stop the demand and to stop the flow of these goods. You know, so much of what we do today, Commissioner Segall, the Department of Consumer Protection, is here. So much of what we do today is fighting to protect consumers online, on Amazon, on Facebook, on eBay, on all the various online platforms. And this is a new frontier for many of us. And so what we're going to do in the Office of the Attorney General is focus all of our civil, investigative, and law enforcement resources. As many of you may know, in this state, most of the criminal law enforcement authority is vested in the state's attorneys and in the state police and local police and in the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection. The Office of the Attorney General is the chief civil law enforcement agency, but we work very closely with our law enforcement partners at the state, local, and federal level. We work closely with our sister states and attorneys general across the country, and we work on a multi-state basis on a lot of various law enforcement initiatives. And we're going to bring all of our civil law enforcement investigative and enforcement resources to bear on this issue. We're also working with the governor and all of our partners here to put tremendous pressure on the online platforms who we're engaged with, and to their credit, they're being responsive, but we need them to do more, because what we've heard from local law enforcement here and across the country is that there's a bottleneck, that we need better cooperation with Amazon, with Facebook, with all of our online retailers and platforms to work with us to target those organized crime rings online that are moving products, that are moving paper towels, that are moving shampoo, that are moving all the things that they can steal from a store like this one, and to cooperate with us, not just to receive information from us and to give us information about these retailers and to identify them, but also to take those retailers down and to stop them from selling on their platforms when it's obvious that they're fencing stolen goods and illegally moving stolen products from stores like this. Let me close by saying this does tremendous damage to stores like this one, to big chains like CVS. CVS is here, Home Depot is here, Lowe's is here, our grocers, and we speak an awful lot during the pandemic about frontline workers, essential workers, people that are important to us every single day. The people that work here are important to us every single day. The people that administer vaccines, that sell us medicine, the people at Stop and Shop, for example, that keep us fed and have kept us fed and safe throughout this pandemic. And they've taken extraordinary risk on behalf of themselves and their families by being out there, working hard, and making sure that we have food on the table and medicine in our medicine cabinets throughout this pandemic. They should not be forced to bear the risk of somebody coming to their store, knocking off their store, potentially hurting them, injuring them, doing great damage to them, their families, and to places that they work. And so this is about more than CVS, and I'm sure Tom will say that. This is about more than business losses. It's about more than job losses. It's about personal safety. This is extraordinarily dangerous. And it's for that reason that all these law enforcement professionals and the governor and our legislators and the mayor, it's for that reason that we're here, because we're very concerned about people in this state and their personal safety, and we're going to do everything we can to protect Connecticut residents and Connecticut workers and to keep families safe here in Connecticut from retail crime. So with that, let me introduce Tom Moriarty, the General Counsel of CVS, who's going to speak more about how this impacts CVS. Thank you.
Well, thank you, General Tong, and Governor Lamont, thank you as well for your leadership, not just on this issue of organized retail crime, but for all the leadership through the pandemic and what you've done for the state of Connecticut. We have had a great partnership with you and your team, and I want to thank you for that partnership, and we'll continue to work together to make sure that the state and the country can come out of this pandemic even stronger than we went into it. You know, as Attorney General Tong outlined, organized retail crime is a very real issue. It hits at every community across the state, and it impacts each consumer in this state because ultimately the costs associated with this are borne by all of us, not just by single actors. And so we have been very cooperative in working with local law enforcement, with the state, and nationally to address this issue. We have an active team very focused on this. And as General Tong outlined, this is not run-of-the-mill shoplifting. This is organized activity that leads to very significant losses for retailers, not just big retailers like us, but small mom-and-pop retailers as well, because they get targeted as part of these activities going forward. We have seen over a 300% increase in this type of activity since the onset of the pandemic. And as Attorney General Tong outlined, this is a two-headed monster. It is the organized retail crime element of this, but it is also the online retailers and the ease with which these criminals can resell their stolen wares. And the proceeds of this activity fund other illicit activity. like human trafficking and other major problems for communities across the state of Connecticut, as well as nationally. So we are very committed to this issue, both here in the state of Connecticut, but also nationally. It is a real issue that every consumer, every citizen should recognize and take very, very seriously. And we pledge our support to the governor and to the state of Connecticut as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. One of the really important reasons why we're here today is to support our state and local law enforcement, particularly law enforcement that are on the front lines of this. It's our local police officers and chiefs who get the first call when something happens at a store like this one or anywhere across the state. And because of that, I want to invite Chief Vernon Riddick of the West Hartford Police Department to join us.
Thank you, Attorney General. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank the Governor, the Attorney General, and my wonderful Mayor for your continued support. If we go into the premise that public safety is paramount, which it is, where does that start? Many times it starts in the home. Having the parents in the home to provide that guidance, that constructive criticism, that discipline. We're also very aware that every home doesn't have that. That's why the community support is extremely important. The Boys and Girls Clubs, Cub Scouts, the recreation centers, to provide that structure, to provide the opportunity for an outlet for our youth so they can grow up to do the right things for the right reasons each and every day. As we continue to go forward, is some of the constructive advice we can give to establishments like CVS. They actually do a really good job. The cameras here are incredible, so you want to have your cameras in a prominent location. You also want to have signage telling visitors and potential violators that there are cameras here. Very, very important. You want to have your high-end items not near the entranceway or the exitway. You want them secreted in the back somewhere. Having greeters at the front of the door, hello, how are you, is very, very important. All of these things assist as another tool in the toolbox for us in law enforcement going forward. Advice for the workers when they have intervention: do not intervene for a property crime. Call us. Be the best witness. Gender, height, clothing description, vehicle description, and give the police a call. This is what we do. Lastly, crime apprehension and prosecution is extremely important, which is why this task force, what we're doing here, will help us tremendously. As we know, the enterprise starts at the local level. So we nip in the bud going forward. We make a difference for public safety and for all of our safety. So thank you, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Chief. I spoke of the frontline workers, especially in the grocery stores. Wayne Pesh, President of the Connecticut Food Association. Thank you, Wayne.
Good morning. First, I want to thank Chief Riddick and the entire law enforcement community for the work that they do every day to, keep people safe and keep our community safe. So thank you, Chief, and thank you to the law enforcement community. But Chief and I were just speaking briefly, and we were talking about a letter to the Police Chiefs Association for increased presence in brick-and-mortar parking lots, especially during the holiday season, mostly as a deterrent. People see the police cars, they see the policemen there, and they're going to move on and go somewhere else. So that's something that I was just talking to the chief about, and something that we're going to talk about making happen almost immediately. This is not a problem that's isolated to Connecticut. This is happening throughout the country. A lot of it has to do with, drug addiction and substance abuse. The Attorney General mentioned the fact that it's easy to go online and sell these wares once they're sold in a brick-and-mortar store or stolen in a brick-and-mortar store, and then you can get rid of those products, pretty quickly and pretty cheaply. So there's a motive there to do it, and then there's an easy way to go and get rid of these products once you've stolen them. So it's something that we need to be diligent about. The chief talked about some of the security measures. It sounds like he could be a trainer for one of our stores. We train our associates to make sure that that they don't get in front of somebody and try to stop them. Our goal is, if you see something, say something. get the information and pass that on to law enforcement. Let them do their job. That's the most important thing we can do to keep people out of harm's way. So just want to say that we support that effort, and we'll be working closely with the police community to help deter some of these crimes before they take place. So we just want to remain vigilant and continue to do what we can to keep consumers and our associates safe. And thank you for putting this task force together, because I think it's going to make a real impact as people are aware of this issue that's happening. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to introduce our hometown state legislative partners, State Representative Kate Farrar and State Senator Derek Slapp.
Thank you, Attorney General Tong, and our governor, and our business partners, and of course our local law enforcement and officials. I'm very pleased that we could gather today in the 20th District. I'm State Representative Kate Farrar and proud to represent Southern West Hartford. And as you heard from some of the previous speakers, the safety of our residents and our business community is really paramount, and that's why we're here today. We've all experienced heightened fear and anxiety during this crisis, and this is just one other way that we can be proactive for our community. And having heard about this type of crime from friends and family in other states, I'm pleased that here in Connecticut, one of the safest states in the country, we are taking the steps to make sure that we can prevent these crimes. And the key here, as you heard, is partnership. We've seen positive effects already from a regional task force locally, particularly for juvenile crimes, and I have no doubt with this task force, we will ensure that all the partners are a part of the solution. And I really encourage our online retailers, as you heard from Attorney General Tong, to step up and be a part of how we can ensure not just a solution in the short term, but in the long term. Thank you, and my colleague Senator Slapp will also join me with a few words on this important initiative.
Thank you, Representative Farrar. Yeah, as a state senator, I hear from constituents regularly who are watching the local news and hear about these incidents, these retail thefts. So then they call us, and they email us, and they say, what are y'all doing about this, right? What is the solution? And this is going to move the needle. We can tell them, hey, look, Connecticut is one of the safest states in the country. And we can say we're one of the only states where violent crime actually went down last year. But understandably, our constituents, my constituents, say, okay, that's fine, but what are you doing right now? Because we feel anxiety, we're watching the news, and we want to know what's happening. What are you doing right now to make us safer? And this partnership is going, I believe, to really move the needle. And one way it's going to do that is it's upping our level of sophistication, right? Just as we see that the criminals have, and they're doing the online fencing. I really applaud the Attorney General and the Governor's office for not only matching that level of sophistication, but going beyond it and working with our retail partners to say, something's got to change, and this is part of the answer. So I do think that this is going to help deliver some real tangible results for our constituents. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we'll hear from Brian Foley of the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection.
Good morning. Thank you, Attorney General Tong. For those of you who think that these types of thefts are anything new, I just ask you to Google Hartford flash mob robbery in 2016 on Capitol Avenue and see that we've been dealing with this for a long time. And then obviously the Oxford incident recently also brought this to attention to a national audience. In both those cases, video cameras stopped absolutely nobody, but they did exactly what they were supposed to do. Gather evidence reliably, impartially, and provide it to the police officers. In Oxford, the Connecticut State Police quickly made arrests in this. In Hartford, back in 2016, 9 juveniles were brought in. The difference between Hartford in 2016 and Oxford in 2021 is the fact that it is an organized effort. That is also not anything new, as cigarettes have been getting stolen in quantity from retailers for decades, refenced. However, it is now showing up online where they're being resold. And that's where this task force comes in. I spoke to Commissioner Ravella this morning. and he was very positive in that we'll be able to assist with this task force. And where it really comes into play is if you're a street cop out here walking a beat in West Hartford, you're not going to know how to get a hold of Facebook Marketplace or Amazon or anyone else on how to contact it. But detectives who work in this business can make one phone call and get through to the right person on the retail side and on the online side. They also have at their disposal the Connecticut Division of Scientific Services, our lab. You think lab, you think of blood analysis, you think of drug testing, that sort of thing. No, they also do computer crimes, and that's stripping computers and phones. And you have detectives assigned to the Connecticut State Police Computer Crimes Unit that also assist in it. But it's not just us. As every local municipality and police department, like the great West Hartford Police Department here, has officers that work here and that will work and assist with these task forces as they have information. That's to include our federal partners and other state agencies that can assist us all. So you can expect the Connecticut State Police to assist in this task force. And I go one step further. If you see one of these incidents happen, if you're in a store and you see one of these robberies happen, do not approach anyone. If you can safely, use your cell phone to capture who's doing it, their vehicle, their license plate, although the license plates are often altered or taken off, so then videotape distinguishing features of the vehicle, whatever you can do, and then provide that to law enforcement to assist them in these investigations. But do not approach, and I thank you, everybody, and we'll do the best we can to assist in this task force. Thank you, Attorney General.
Thank you, Brian. And now we'll hear from my partner in consumer protection, Commissioner Michelle Segall of the Department of Consumer Protection.
Good morning, everyone. Really happy to be here. Thank you to the governor for his support for all the work we do protecting consumers, and the Attorney General for just being a leader and partner on all of these issues. One of the reasons we're here is, protecting consumers. A big part of that means what we need is well-working, legitimate marketplaces where consumers can go and feel confident buying goods and services and knowing their money, perhaps their personal information, is going to someone who's going to use it properly. The product they're getting in return is the one they expected and were paying for. And that's why this is a problem that consumers themselves really need to be engaged with and thinking about how to solve. And there's a lot consumers can do. So, when you go online, this marketplace can only exist if consumers go and buy these products. So there's ways to look for warning signs that perhaps a product that you're buying online was in fact stolen. And really, the type of strategies you're going to use to avoid buying stolen goods are just good strategies overall, so you don't get defrauded. These are really signs that the seller or the business you're interacting with is not legitimate. So a couple of things to be sensitive to. One, if you're buying from either a marketplace where it's more just another individual, or you're buying from a new business that you've never heard of, seems like a new website, do your research first. Look up the name, run it in a Google search with the word fraud or scam, see what comes up. You want to be suspicious if you're getting a deal on something and it just seems too good to be true. It's a product selling for several hundred and it's being sold for $50. That's a red flag that this may not be a legitimate product or a legitimate sale. Also, if the business is not going to give you a lot of details about the product, they won't tell you their return policy, more signs that this is not a place you want to be giving your money to, particularly online, where now they're going to perhaps have bank account information or credit card information. So it's really important for us at the department, and we're really pleased to be able to be here and supporting this effort, that we do our role to protect legitimate businesses, the legitimate workers there, so that we have this safe marketplace for consumers and for all of us to interact with. So thank you again.
Thank you. And I want to thank the governor for convening this task force, for making organized retail crime a priority, and doing all that he has done over this past, now going on 2 years, to keep all of us safe and healthy here in Connecticut. Governor Ned Lamont.
All right. Well, thank you, General Tong, for getting this organized. And Tom, usually when we get together at CVS, we're talking about we got plenty of boosters. Come in and get boosted. This is the time to do it. A different message today. This is about not your grandmother's shoplifting, but this is organized criminal activity. This is not onesies and twosies taking some things out for their personal use. And that's why we are going to put together a task force, multifaceted, to make sure that on supply and demand, you know you will be stopped and there will be consequences, and we're going to stop this. First and foremost, you'll find the nature of these crimes. We're just describing the Oxford theft down there of Tide detergent. Maybe somebody goes in early and they take photographs of Tide. They can post that online. Then they get demand for Tide detergents. Then they go buy, they steal, dozens and dozens of boxes of Tide detergent. Well, watch out. We got cameras here. We'll be able to see who's doing that. We got police patrolling in the area. We'll be seeing who's trying to leave here. And we'll be able to take, in many cases, photographs of license plates and the such, stopping the demand. For those of you who are caught, there will be accountability. But we want to go after the big fish. I want to go after these wholesalers. I want to go after these these gangs, these organizations that are doing this, and turning this into a billion-dollar theft enterprise. Hundreds of millions of dollars right here in thefts in the state of Connecticut. And part of our task force is to work very closely with those that are getting these stolen products fenced, distributed. Used in the old days, you go to a pawn shop and you say, my brother's friend got it, and here, you want to buy some? Now it's a mass marketing program on these anonymous online marketplaces. And that is going to stop. And I have the opportunity to work with Governor Lee of Tennessee. We're in charge of cyber. This is a cyber theft as well. And those big companies are allowing these hundreds of millions of dollars of product to be fenced, resold online, can do a lot more. And we're going to be talking to the Facebooks and Amazons and eBays what more they can do. No more selling anonymously, getting the tax ID number, finding the information we need to be able to track down who's doing this, so we can deal with this at the supply side and the demand side. I think one of the reasons this is ramped up in such a serious way is that the online platforms have created enormous demand for this illegal market. As Michelle said, there are a lot of red flags. If we see hundreds of boxes of Tide being sold at 30% off retail with not much description, we ought to know who's selling that, where you got that from, and how we can go after you. So this is a really important step. I think you can see the team we've got behind us. We can make a difference to slow this down and stop this dead in its tracks. It's going to take a little while, but this task force is a start, and the very best ideas we have are going right up to the White House. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. With that, Governor, happy to take some questions.
General Tong, can you give us some concrete examples of what your office, or in particular, or the task force in general, will be doing, whether as far as how you intend to pressure Facebook, eBay, and the rest?
So, a couple things. Number one, I've been working very closely with my colleagues in other states, in particular Kwame Raoul, the Attorney General of Illinois. He has a task force. They've been very successful. They had a major bust in recent months. And frankly, I'm trying to emulate and learn from what he's doing, and colleagues on both sides of the aisle across the country, and how they're targeting organized retail crime in their states. And I've met with them personally, face-to-face. I've met with representatives of Home Depot and Lowe's to talk about this issue on a national basis. So that's number one. Number two, I'm taking a lot of action with respect to social media platforms and the big technology companies. And so, as many of you may know, I've sued Google, I've sued Facebook on antitrust grounds. A few weeks ago, I announced an investigation of Instagram. I took very strong action against TikTok after New Britain High School was torn apart as a result, it seems, of viral videos on TikTok encouraging kids to tear their high schools apart. And the good thing is that when we make an inquiry, when we send a letter, when we start an investigation, we get a response almost immediately. TikTok met with me the very next day. And so working with the governor, and frankly with the governor's muscle, and with Commissioner Ravella, we're going to put a lot of pressure on Amazon, on Facebook. We've already started doing it, and they're engaging with us to make sure that when we call, they pick up the phone, that when we say we have information about a particular organized retail crime organization, and we need your help in getting us information. They get us that information as quickly as possible. And when we say we have information that says that this retailer and that retailer on your platform are selling stolen goods, we want their cooperation to take it down. So that's specifically what we're trying to achieve with this task force.
But so pawn shops, there are strict rules about when people come in and what they have to record and whatnot. Is the regulatory structure sufficient at this point to ensure that these online resellers have similar requirements to meet?
That's a good question, and that's part of the task force's work, that we need to analyze whether we have all the tools in the toolbox to make sure that we stop the flow of goods and stop the demand, whether it's in a pawn shop on the back of a truck or on eBay, Facebook, Marketplace, Amazon.
Maybe this is a question for Mr. Moriarty. Is increased security personnel part of the solution, i.e., off-duty cops or security personnel working in the stores? Is that part of the solution?
There are a number of different steps to address this issue, and we've been taking a lot of them. I'm not going to detail them, as you can appreciate why we won't. But as the chief indicated, there are simple things that can be done, training our store personnel, obviously cameras and other things. And, there's another element of this, too, which we didn't talk about. We're talking about smash and grabs now. But also, it's the holiday time of year. These organized retail crimes now engage in gift card fraud with our seniors. So we've trained our teams, trained our personnel to be aware of signs of potential gift card fraud where they've called the senior, said your grandson's in jail, you need to send money right away, and they go for the gift card. So we're working on that as well with the General's office and across the country. So this, again, it's multifaceted in how we do this, and we are very focused as a company, both at CVS but also working with other retailers in the state and nationally to address this.
Can you say how much of a monetary loss you suffer each year from this?
It's growing, and it's in the several hundreds of millions.
Several hundreds of millions.
Actually, we just had a meeting about that issue. I won't spring it on you, but I had a meeting with other attorneys general last week, and we talked about gift card fraud and the scam where people call. Now there's a variety of scams where people call you, email you, or text you. The famous one is the grandparent scam, right? That your granddaughter or grandson's in trouble. Please send us money. And sometimes they say, send us gift cards or prepaid cards, and people do it. And now the scam has gotten more sophisticated. There are scams around tax bills and utility bills, and they'll call and they'll say, you owe money to the town of West Hartford, send it to me in gift cards, and people will do it. And actually, in some states now, in local jurisdictions, they're putting up signage in stores like yours that around the gift card display that say, state and local tax authorities will not ask you to pay in gift cards, or some kind of message to remind people not to fall for those scams.
What did you say, General Tong, was the level of monetary loss in the state per year? Was there an estimate on that?
Estimate of $169 million in lost tax revenue, and an estimate of more than 8,000 jobs lost as a result of organized retail crime.
169 million per year.
I believe that's right, yeah. We'll get you those numbers, but I believe that's right. I don't have my notes in front of me. Anybody else?
Governor, can you take some COVID questions?
We'll do that after.
Do that in 5 minutes?
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Happy holidays.